I'm Tiege.
And I'm Sam.
And we are your well-informed girlfriends.
Bringing you today's news, gossip, and unsolicited hot takes. This week, we are talking about the No Kings marches that took place across the country over the weekend, the military parade in Washington, D.C., and is World War III brewing or what?
Oh, please, no.
I know, I hope not.
I just want to hang out and go to Target.
Don't we all?
We'll also be chatting about the growing preference for girl babies, the rules around Juneteenth celebrations, and NAD.
Okay.
Which I'm very excited to break down.
I'm excited. All that and so much more on this week's ep of Well-Informed Girlfriends.
Oh, wait. And if you could like and subscribe, we would love you forever. So please.
Okay.
Amazing.
Okay, so I mean, like, this has been quite the weekend, so let's just dive deep into it. People came out across this country for the No Kings marches. There were like nearly 2,000 or maybe more, all of them protesting Donald Trump, the military parade in Washington, D.C., ongoing federal immigration raids. So here is a clip from ABC News.
It was quite the contrast between what played out on the National Mall, a parade of pomp and circumstance, and the many protests and some unrest across the country.
From Atlanta to Arlington to Albuquerque to Anaheim, 2,000 separate demonstrations this weekend in all 50 states. So-called No Kings Day protest voicing opposition to President Trump's agenda and a joint birthday celebration he threw for the U.S. Army and himself. Many protests peaceful, but some erupting into chaos. Gunfire breaking out during a demonstration in Salt Lake City, Utah. Police rushing to help one victim in critical condition. Authorities taking one man into custody and saying there are no other known threats to the community. A motive under investigation. In Los Angeles, police used flashbangs to break up crowds outside federal buildings downtown. Protesters seen running to safety.
I think it's safe to say that many people were worried the downtown LA protests would turn violent, but it was actually largely peaceful, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
LA officials did say outside agitators showed up near the end of the protest, started throwing things like fireworks, water bottles, and so on. And the police did have to move in and shut it down. But again, that was just one moment out of one protest out of the 2,000, all of which were like nearly peaceful. But there was one major incident, right?
There was one major incident, actually in Salt Lake City, which was really scary. I guess there was a person who was dressed up as a police officer, and he had a rifle, and he shot one of the protesters. And so scary. I think they're still in critical condition, but a lot of people swooped in to help him. And I think that they did detain and find that gunman. So interesting. My thing with all these, I actually attended a No Kings protest yesterday in Culver City. And I have to say, there's something about marches, there's something about like being with people that was like so heartwarming. Like I pulled up to the protest and I was like tearful because it's just like, you get to be around people who think like you, first of all, but also like we all just like want the same things, right? Like we all just like want to be happy and go to Target at the end of the day. So it's like I think like it's nice to like have something that we can all like be together for. And I was really moved by, there were people there with their kids and people there with their parents, and like this really, like, it just honestly was really sweet. It was very peaceful where I was, and it was a really moving experience. So I feel lucky that I was able to be there. And I feel lucky that I'm in a community that people showed up. I mean, I saw like a lot of things online where people would go to, like, in small cities that even people were coming out in droves. And I thought that was really powerful to see. So
yeah, my mom was in Saugatuck, Michigan, and she sent me a video of like almost 100 people rallying. It was like nice. And many of them elderly, which I thought was really sweet. So, I mean, I'm glad that so many people felt moved to take action, because if not now, then when?
Right. And I saw a lot of things online where it was like somebody's like first protest and they were like in their 70s. Oh, wow. So I thought it was really cool to see like a lot of generations came out. I actually did see a story as well about not as many young people showed up, which I thought was interesting. I don't know why that is. I think there was a lot of fear, but I don't know. You would think young people would be the ones that would turn out.
You would think, but I mean, I was at work, so maybe they were working. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows on a Saturday.
Yeah. Speaking of turnout,
yes,
a lot of people turned out to Washington, D.C. this weekend. Donald Trump finally got his military parade, ostensibly to mark the 250th anniversary of the Continental Congress vote to establish the Continental Army, but it did happen to be his 79th birthday, conveniently.
Yeah.
In the end, the Army told the Washington Post it would cost between $25 and $45 million.
Of taxpayer money.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And that's just like the cost of the parade. The cost of the city and potentially like the entire government is still unclear. But the Army did agree to foot the bill for any damage to the streets. And they actually reinforced part of the routes with metal plates and put like rubber track pads on some of the vehicles.
Yeah.
To like try, because that was like a big part of the cost that people were estimating. So I don't know. I mean, I read a couple of different articles about the people that attended. Not all of them were MAGA. Some of them were just like military history enthusiasts or whatever. I mean, like, I don't know. We haven't had a parade like this since literally like the year we were born. So
yeah,
I guess I'm just not used to seeing that.
Yeah, look, I'm happy to celebrate the Army and the veterans.
And,
I mean, they really do so much for our country. I think it's great to celebrate them. I think this was interesting. I feel like it's, I don't know. Is it a little bit ironic because Trump just recently proposed cuts to 80,000 veteran affairs jobs that would dramatically affect veterans. So while I think it is very cool to support them and come out and support the Army and all this stuff and our veterans, like that should be a part of the dialogue. But if you're getting rid of veterans affairs and like you're going to directly affect the healthcare of veterans, it's like, could that money have gone toward that and keeping some jobs? Who knows? We'll see what happens. Obviously, these haven't happened yet, but I feel like it's a little bit ironic. Oh my God, what's happening with the Big Beautiful Bill?
What is happening with the Big Beautiful Bill? Okay, I can totally tell you about that right quick.
Okay, please.
Basically, the Big Beautiful Bill is not tabled, but it's in committee right now at the U.S. Senate.
Okay.
So basically, how the bill is going to pass, and this might be in the weeds, so everyone just like low key bear with me.
Dumb it down,
okay?
Sam. Okay.
Yes. Here's exactly what you need to know about the Big Beautiful Bill in Congress.
Yeah.
After clearing the House, it hasn't passed the Senate. It's in committee, which means like the committee has to look at it and release the text of the bill, the version of the bill they want, right?
Okay.
And then once it does that, it has to be reviewed by the Senate parliamentarian and other senators to make sure that it is following all the rules. It's this thing called the Byrd Rule because they're passing it via budget reconciliation. I don't need to get into all the details, but basically only things that impact the budget can be in this Big Beautiful Bill. Otherwise, it's like not following the rules of how they're making it pass. So basically, it can't like change any of the budgets to spending or revenue. And it also can't raise the deficit after 10 years or change Social Security. Anyway, because of all that, it seems like it won't be ready for debate on the Senate floor and then their vote-a-rama until the week of June 22. So we got a minute on the Big Beautiful Bill.
Okay, we've got a minute on
TLDR.
the Big Beautiful Bill.
Exactly.
That's very interesting.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay, so this weekend was still like pretty crazy though. Coming back to that. So Saturday, Minnesota was like absolutely shaken by this crazy politically motivated attack, which targeted like kind of not that famous. Yeah, but they weren't like crazy famous Democratic lawmakers in their own homes. So at 2 a.m., a man impersonating a police officer arrived at Minnesota State Senator John Hoffman's home and opened fire, seriously wounding him and his wife, Yvette. And then an hour later, he attacked former House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark at their house and killed both of them.
Yeah, it's absolutely devastating. So we should talk about the suspect a little bit. So authorities have named this suspect as 57-year-old Vance Luther Bolter. And he is still on the run
still on the lam. Yeah, they have not found him.
As of Sunday afternoon, he is still on the run, which is crazy because he actually did have some interaction with law enforcement. He shot at law enforcement. He was still at her home, and then he like got away on foot. So he didn't even get a chance to get in his vehicle. So it's like, how in the heck did he get away and like you guys still haven't found it? It's crazy.
That is nuts.
But anyways, so yeah, that he's a 57-year-old Vance Luther. Tim Walz obviously came out and was horrified and said it was a politically motivated assassination. And President Trump and members from both parties condemned the violence. The FBI has now officially joined in on the manhunt and offered a $50,000 reward. And people are really worried about it. you know,
I mean,
it's just
understandably
like,
so. That's really wild.
Also, it's like, this is like another level of like scary. And I'm sure you saw that he had like a manifesto in the car.
Yes. And he had like No Kings protest paraphernalia.
Yeah.
But his hit list seemed to be mostly Democrats, which is crazy.
Mostly Democrats and like abortion rights places and people who are connected with that. So yeah, really tough stuff. I hated it. And also like, just like the videos and the pictures of his, like he put on like a whole like, and here's my question. I do want to have a discussion about this because we are seeing people, we saw this in Salt Lake City where someone was dressed up as a police officer with a rifle and hurt someone. And then now we're seeing this, he was dressed up as a police officer and hurt someone.
Yeah.
So how are we going to start keeping people safe when people are just like finding uniform? Like we have to have some sort of, I don't know, another way of like verifying if someone's actually law enforcement or like what do we have to do? That's like really scary. People already have so much distrust with or just like they're fearful of people in uniform. And now it's like, oh my gosh, like bad actors are going to be doing these types of crimes. It's really scary. I don't like it. What do you think about that?
That's super unsettling.
Yeah.
I have no idea what the solution is. I'm not even sure where one would buy a police uniform. I'm like, how are you getting these?
I actually did some research. You can do it online.
Oh, yeah. Just like any police department.
No, I mean you would have to like do a little bit of crafting. Oh, but it's basically like pretty easy to do.
Ugh, that's terrifying.
Yeah,
that's
but
very
I've also seen people doing that with like ICE uniforms, like making their own like version of an ICE uniform, and like so
I don't like that.
No, I don't really like any of it, so it's kind of scary. But I guess something to watch out for. But yeah, very very sad to see what happened in Minnesota, and hopefully they find him soon because and hopefully like we just don't have anything like this happen again.
That's very unsettling for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, next story. Generally, we don't cover international politics here on Well-Informed Girlfriends, but we're making an exception this week, and that's because what's happening in Iran/Israel almost certainly is and will impact the U.S. So here's what you need to know about what's happening in the Middle East and if we're heading for like a World War III. Israel launched a giant attack on Iran on Friday, hitting dozens of targets inside Iran, including nuclear sites, but some other like science development sites. They also killed several leaders of the military and high-profile nuclear scientists. Iran has retaliated, firing hundreds of missiles at Israel since last Friday. That's according to Israeli officials. And in Iran, airstrikes have killed 78 people and injured about 300. This is all as of Sunday, which is when we're recording. And in Israel, retaliatory strikes killed at least 11 people and wounded dozens more. So that's what's going on. You might be wondering, why did Israel attack Iran?
Yeah, why?
So Israeli officials have said it was a preemptive strike, although there was no immediate indication that Iran was actually planning an attack. An Israeli military official told reporters that on the condition of anonymity, which is important to note, that the strikes had targeted elements of Iran's nuclear program.
Yeah.
And the country's long-range missile abilities because they had been advancing a secret program to assemble a nuclear weapon. And that's all according to Israeli intelligence. And that it had enough material to assemble 15 nuclear bombs within days. So that's what they have told reporters.
That's what they're alleging. Yes. And that's why they attacked.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I will say New York Times noted that official that told them that didn't provide evidence of that assessment. So it's hard to be entirely confident.
Is, and I don't know if you have the answer, but my question is, when they're attacking these nuclear sites, isn't there a risk of like setting something nuclear off? Like, or is that not how it works?
Yeah, no, there is. Or so extreme contamination, like a Chernobyl kind of situation. Yeah. So so a lot of the sites are contaminated now.
So why is that the method of doing that?
Well, because it's in Iran.
Yeah.
So if a missile were to or something were to go off or like a chemical explosion were to happen, it's in Iran. It's not in Israel.
Oh,
because they're bombing the other country. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So they're like, oh, well, we'd rather hit that. I mean, I'm assuming they would rather.
Right. Okay. I see. That makes sense in my brain.
And so, okay, here we go. And so how does all of this impact the United States?
Yeah.
The U.S. is an official ally of Israel, meaning like an all-out war could draw us into conflict. Mm-hmm. American leaders were also part of a team that was hoping to get Israel and Iran to come to agreement without war.
Yeah.
And so now those talks are actually canceled for the foreseeable future. They were supposed to meet up, I think, this weekend, and they're just not happening. So,
gosh, this is so crazy. Honestly, like, there's just so much. There's so much going on in the world.
I know, it's like a really news-heavy weekend.
Yeah, I mean, this is why we started Well-Informed Girlfriends. We just wanted to like have a place where it felt like we could like really catch up on these things and try to make them digestible. But here's the thing. There's so much going on in the world. It's so scary. And I just feel like, what happened to us just like having fun? Like if we're lucky, you get to have like 100 years on this planet, right?
Right.
If you're lucky. And so it's like, why can't we all just like have a good time? I understand. And I know this sounds like very privileged to say this, but it's like, you know, I get that they're like our religion things and like people and their history and like money and like a lot of the resources. Like I understand war in a way, but I don't understand now. Like 2025, we're still doing this? Feels like, what are we doing? Like all I want to do is just like literally go to yoga class. Like come on, like we got to worry about this now. It's like so much.
Honestly, what it's done for me has kind of made me realize that life is short. You know, I think as time goes on, I thought like war would, you know, maybe we would solve racism in my lifetime and like sexism and war would be over. Clearly that's not going to happen. So I think we're all just like trying to look for the little pockets of joy in our lives because the world is a dark and scary place right now. And I don't know. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm white knuckling it.
We have to white knuckle it. That's really all we can do at this point.
Exactly.
Just keep it going. Okay, so this is a little bit of a lighter story.
Yeah, no, this is an interesting
next story.
Okay, so people have actually largely stopped aborting babies simply because they were girls. So this is according to The Economist.
Wait, what do you mean?
Yeah, so like around the world from the 1980s on, after the rise of ultrasound machines tells you the gender of the baby you're expecting, families desperate for a boy baby would often actually abort female ones. But so globally among babies born in 2000, so this is 25 years ago, 1.6 million girls were missing from the number you would expect. So like there were 1.6 million fewer females born than you would expect based on like the natural sex ratio at birth.
Okay.
And this year that number is likely to be only 200,000 and it's actually still falling. And that the reason for this is especially in a lot of East Asian countries, the story cited China and their one child rule, for example, as an extreme case, people have started to change their minds about having women. And in the US and other Western countries, things have changed so much that actually people are hoping to have girls. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
The story said that people aren't aborting boys for being boys these days, but the preference for female children can be seen in other indicators like polls and fertility patterns. So in the US, couples are more likely to have a second baby if their first one is a male. Like they're more likely to be like, no, our family's not complete. We need a girl. Versus like parents of an only child who's a girl are more likely to be one and done. Isn't that funny?
Wow, that is funny.
Yeah. Or like when adopting in the Western countries, you will pay extra if you want a girl for at a lot of places.
Wow.
Or when undergoing IVF and other sex selection methods in countries where it's legal to choose the sex of the embryo, women increasingly opt for daughters.
Wow.
Isn't
that's
that crazy?
Interesting.
I mean, like, what do you think that suggests about changing gender roles and expectations in the Western world?
I don't know. I mean, that's a loaded question.
I know it is. That was a trick. She didn't fall for it.
Uh-oh.
I'm trying to get canceled, Tiege. No, I'm kidding.
No, but it is really interesting. I mean, I think, I don't know. I've always wanted a girl. So
same. I know, right? First of all, the outfits
that.
are cuter. Let's be real.
The outfits are cute. It's fun to have a mini-me. Like,
right.
I do understand.
Well, and I'm definitely my mom's best friend.
Yeah.
You know, now that we're adults, I talk to my mom like every day. She loves me. I love her too, but she loves me more.
Yeah.
If you hear that, Betsy, I'm sorry.
Definitely.
Do you think it's ethical to choose the sex of your child if you have not to abort a baby, but if you're doing like IVF or something, do you think it's ethical to choose the gender?
I mean, I think if you can. I don't think there's any problem with that. Like if you can make a choice, I would never it makes me sad to think people would abort based on the sex.
I don't think they weren't saying that people were doing that to boys these days. They were just saying they prefer women.
Right. Yeah. The preference. Wow. Very interesting.
I know. So that's some tea.
Okay. Wow.
Okay. Speaking of getting canceled. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Our next story, I was thinking about doing something on Juneteenth. I have the day off, as do many of us. I think Tiege does as well. And we were debating what to do with our midweek free time.
Yeah.
And it occurred to us, it might be like frowned upon to have just like a casual pool party. So I wanted to actually take a moment to acknowledge Juneteenth and talk about what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, great. The holiday actually marks June 19, 1865, when Union troops arrived in Texas and Galveston with the news of the Emancipation Proclamation, casually 2 years after Lincoln had signed it. So like just that's cool. And so more than 250,000 African Americans were freed that day, and it became known as Juneteenth or Freedom Day.
Okay, great.
And I asked around and Googled and found some suggested ways for marking the holiday on the day, such as reading books by Black authors, visiting Black-owned businesses, going to your local African American museum. And generally the consensus I pulled from my friends and internet threads is that you can hang out with your friends on that day. Just don't do anything that would play into racist tropes or act like really flippant about the history of the holiday. So if you wanted clearance.
That feels right.
Yeah. Like
yeah,
if you wanted
obviously.
clearance to do something with your day off, you're getting it approved, but just don't do anything dumb. Don't be stupid, you know?
What are you going to do?
Oh, I think I'm going to go to the pool.
Nice.
But I will probably also like go to a Black-owned business and like read a book or something.
Yeah. That's
just,
sweet.
you know, also to acknowledge.
Yeah, that is nice. It is funny that it's a Thursday, right?
Yeah, it's like a random day in the middle of the week. And
Yeah.
you don't have Friday off. So it's like, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so our next story, I thought this was really interesting. So there was a recent survey done of 2,000 Americans pinpointing precisely what level, a percentage of remaining phone battery that people start to freak out and get worried.
Okay, what is that?
Which is funny. So the results showed that anxiousness starts to creep in relatively early. And I think this is way earlier than what I would be worried at, but 38% is what they pinpointed.
That seems really high.
Yeah, that's what I said. I'm like, I ride my battery till the end.
Oh,
like,
same. I like start to panic around like maybe 5%,
Yeah,
10%.
me too.
If I like know I'm not going to be home anytime soon.
Yeah, no, me too. Like I feel like it's like
why did they do that poll?
I don't know. Yeah, I guess that's when people start to panic. 38%.
That's so funny.
But yeah, no, I ride mine into the sunset. 1% done. I actually feel kind of, I'm like, oh, that's a sense of accomplishment. Like I don't want my phone around me all the time.
Yeah, I'm like always hoping my phone might die, actually.
Yeah, literally. It would be so much better to
please do not contact me.
have the grips of it all.
Exactly.
That's hilarious.
Exactly.
Okay, our next story is, I really wanted to talk about something that a lot of people here in LA have been talking about for years. Celebrities have been doing this forever. It's called NAD. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of like weird internet commercials about it. Like I always see people like just talking about it online. But I've been doing some more research on it. So I kind of wanted to break down what it is, what it does for you, whatever. So anyways, NAD, it is a coenzyme. Okay. So it's basically like a molecule that lives in every single one of your cells. And it helps basically turn your food into energy, repair DNA, regulate your sleep, control inflammation, and even can like slow the aging process. But the problem is, as we get older, NAD levels drop dramatically. So by 40 or 50, your NAD levels are basically like half of what they were at 20. But there are ways to get NAD now. So some people, like the more extreme version of it is like you go and get like an IV drip of NAD.
Oh my gosh.
But there's also pills, and it's basically like people are really talking like it's, I think I'm going to try it. That's what I want to bring up here. Okay. I think I'm going to try anything that is like an anti-aging thing. I'm like, I'll give it a go.
Okay. I mean, like, I'm interested to see you try it. I would consider trying it. Is it wildly expensive? Do you have to go to a med spa?
I think it's wildly expensive if you get like the pure version and like you do the actual IV, and it takes a little bit of time.
Yeah.
But this also kind of reminds me of, you have been watching Secret Lives of Mormon Wives.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Wait, what's so funny on that show is that they're doing like ketamine drip, and I'm like, what is going on? You guys are literally like doing ketamine as
but
like,
you won't drink coffee? Like what?
It's
what?
So insane.
That show
they're
is so
literally
crazy.
like doing ketamine.
Yeah.
But it kind of reminds me of that.
I have a lot of thoughts about the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Should we discuss this really quick?
Yeah.
What Sam and Teague are watching?
Oh my God.
Only the highest brow television.
It is like so satisfying as reality TV because they are really opening up in a way that I'm like, I'm obsessed. Taylor, I'm obsessed with her.
Yeah. And it's reached like a level of chaos I did not expect.
Yeah.
I will admit I'm only on like episode 6 or 7 right now. So like hashtag no spoilers. Yeah, of season 2. But I just like, I love that they keep being like, and we're supposed to be women supporting women. I'm like, girl, when have you been supporting women this whole time? Like, are we being supportive here? I don't know.
No, the first season, I feel like they were like more supportive in like a team.
Yeah.
But like the second season, for some reason, obviously, I feel like the second season is a little bit more produced than the first season.
Yeah.
Like the first season was like really raw, and it was like all about like actual drama that was actually happening in the world with them. But then now I feel like season 2 is like there are some like storylines that you're like, like the Jen Affleck stuff, and like them like it really feels produced this season.
Yeah, well, and they all keep calling each other fake, but then they're all fake. So I'm like, what? That's like the lamest insult I've ever heard.
And like them like bringing the Chippendales, like that all felt so produced.
My God. Yeah, some producer somewhere was like, great idea.
Yeah, but I'm like, those girls would never think. I mean, that's like evil, you know?
No, I know.
So
it's like so evil. So I mean, like, I
level.
love it. I love the drama, and obviously, all reality shows not really reality. So,
right,
but I'm enjoying. So, if anyone's watching Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, drop your comments.
So good.
We will discuss. So.
Yeah, we will discuss. Okay, so our next thing I wanted to kind of talk about is, I don't know about you, but I have been experiencing a lot of like anxiety around social media right now. I think like everything I'm seeing, and like it seems very hypocritical of me because I did write a book about doing a social media detox. But I do think like I wrote that book because I had a problem. So I also feel like it is like
just acknowledging it.
It's important to acknowledge. Yeah. So anyways, I feel like a lot of people have been talking, all my friends have been talking about like their screen time is super up. They're like super plugged into their phones, especially like TikTok. And like I do things like intermittent social media use. So like I only check at certain times of the day or whatever, but I find myself more pulled toward it right now. And I think like it's this weird like feeling of like, oh, like I'm being productive because I'm like informed, but like there is a line where it's like gets to be like it's too much, right?
Yeah.
It's too overwhelming, it's too stressful, it affects your mood. It affects your anxiety, it affects your sleep. And so I feel like I've gotten to that point. So I just wanted to briefly kind of discuss that there are a few solutions that we could implement. And these are kind of things that I talk about in the book as well. But basically a few solutions for something I like to call as information overload are what I kind of brought up already, this intermittent social media use. So maybe you'd only check your social media from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. and it's in like 5-minute increments. Or you can also do things like I've seen people schedule out their social media use. So it'll be like every hour on the hour, I'll check my notifications or my phone for 5 minutes. And then and then you put your phone away, like out of sight, out of mind. And then in the next hour, then you check again. So it's you can like try to be strategic about your use, I think is really helpful. Also like doing a social media detox is really helpful. And I think like right now, I think one thing people hesitate doing social media detoxes, one of the reasons is they're like, I want to know what's going on. But it's like I think we forget there's other ways to find news. Like you can still look at the news, you can still like have your sources and stuff like that. So anyways, I would just suggest if you are feeling overwhelmed by your phone, maybe just try to start implementing ways to put it out of sight, out of mind, and taking time to like really like reflect and like be with yourself, because I feel like I myself was kind of losing it this week, and I was like, I have to just start putting it away and like not looking at it and getting overwhelmed. And there are so many benefits to doing a social media detox: better focus, better connection with the people and the things you care about. It's also just a really good reset for your brain and your dopamine. There's research that even 1 day off of your phone can help to reset those dopamine levels. So
that's some tea. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like I'm just looking at like the New York Times app or like the LA Times app. It's not even my social media that's like killing me. It's like the actual news is just like so stressful.
Totally. I feel like TikTok is one that I've just been like really consumed by.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't know. I find it so hard to get like that into TikTok sometimes. Sometimes it's really easy for me to fall into it. But like lately, it's been like a lot of weird stuff on there. I'm like, I don't know about this. So I don't know if anyone knows how to fix my algorithm. Let me know, because it's messed up right now. Before we go, you wanted to talk about something you did this week that was really cool.
Oh, yes, I would love to. Okay, so this is kind of our feel-good story of the week. I know this is a lot of heavy news today.
Yeah.
So I thought it might be nice for us to do a feel-good story at the end. So I basically did some work this week with an organization called Safe Place for Youth. And I was really inspired by the work that they were doing. So I kind of wanted to highlight the work that they're doing and talk about, what kind of difference they're making in the community here in Southern California, but then all across the world. So basically, Safe Place for Youth works with young people who are experiencing homelessness. A lot of them, it's people who have aged out of the foster care system. So they work with kids are young adults 18 to like 26. And basically they work with them to like provide either stable housing or resources or education or mentorship to basically get them on their feet to be able to live on their own. And so I was really, really inspired by them. And they are one of the organizations that is facing cuts from federal funding. So I thought it was really important to talk about it. There's different ways to get involved. You can donate or you can volunteer in LA. I've already pitched to Sam that we should go to the Venice location.
I've agreed to it. We're doing it.
Yes, I think that will be very fun. So I just wanted to talk about that. And I was really inspired by their message, and they've helped so many people. And the people that work for the organization were also just like so lovely and wonderful. And so I just want to help them in their mission. So Safe Place for Youth, if you're looking for a place to invest and help somebody out.
Love that so much.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Well, everyone, thanks so much for joining us this week. I know it was heavy, but hopefully you feel like you learned something.
Yeah.
Or, you can just join us and white knuckling it through life
Right.
until the end of time. It's great.
Okay, thanks. Love you. Bye.
Bye.